And we should be live. Are we live? We should be. Gonna take us a wake up coffee first. Waiting for my stream to boot up. Hopefully your music isn't too loud. It feels like it's gonna be too loud. I'm just gonna check on the stream first, see how everything sounds. So there we go. I'm just gonna check on the stream first, see how everything sounds. Wow. Okay, so my voice is really, really low. Well, like I said, I'm extremely tired today, but hopefully, hopefully this is fun and will be educational and beneficial to newer animators. I'm just gonna lower the background music even further uh, to make my voice less jarring. Um, no, yeah, but do tell me if my voice is too low. And here's him checking out Dom Chung's new video. Shout out to him. Yep, y'all can peep him um, in your own time. Ooh, that's bad. That's really bad. Gotta close it like that. And now, yeah, let's get the stream going. So yeah, I haven't really structured anything again. Um, we threw like a big ass birthday party for our friends last night, and today I'm extremely tired, so I don't think I'm in a headspace that's good enough to throw up a good warm-up stream, so that's why I'm doing this instead. Also kind of a thing to, like help myself review animation fundamentals. Lots of animators don't, keep in touch with their basics, and over time they kind of slip. It's a slippery slope, and it's hard. I get it. It's hard. Like, gotta keep up with the studio schedules, and there's so much work, and like animating, we can't go through every single steps every time because again with the time constraints and the budgets and yada yada. But again, there's a reason why they are. Oh my god, I'm gonna. Sorry guys, wait a minute. My mom's calling. Man, I'm so out of breath. Damn. Oh boy. Holy shit. Sorry, mom just had me carry a bunch of groceries. Hopefully, um, muting the muting the stream really did mute the stream because man, I was whining like a bitch. Let's see. Let's check. Had me carry a bunch of groceries. Hopefully, um, why they are. Oh my god. I'm gonna. Sorry, guys. Wait a minute. My mom's calling. Okay. Let's see how it went. Okay, the stream's still going. Still silent. Okay, good. Okay, so thankfully I muted the stream correctly now. I don't know where I was at because goddamn those was some really heavy groceries, but and I carried them up the stairs. Alright. Shit was whack. At least now, you know, got my chest huffing puffing. Okay, so I don't know where I was, but you know, let's just jump into it. Yeah, I guess I was talking about how, you know, like a lot of animators don't really keep in touch with their basics. They kind of just, how you say, what's that phrase? Gloss over it? Is that the phrase? I don't know. But yeah, they kind of leave everything up to, you know, being just autopilot, and that's a no-no. Because drawing, we need to keep drawing very intentional and thoughtful. So yeah, that's why bringing myself back to these basics always help me stay grounded, and you know, being really solid with your fundamentals is the way to become better. All right, so yeah, first let's talk about these two boys. They are very confusing to a lot of newer animators. They don't really get how these two can combine and make the time charts, and what info do the time charts tell the animators. So first, let's do something very let's do something very simple, classic, bouncing ball. So yeah, first let's establish our ground, and then let's just hop in, right? So I'm gonna say the ball is gonna be bouncing up and down like this, right? So this is what I call a layout page, right? It's on a different layer than the animation. Oh, LL page it is. And here I just kind of scribble in like how I feel like the thing should be in the frame. So it's kind of like a storyboard thing, a director thing, right? Because a director directs how things play out on the screen. or you would say, or maybe you would call that like a screenplay writer. Regardless, I've always started with this kind of getting the gist of what I want to see, basically. And I like this as a pretty good, you know, like size of the ball and the distance of travel. So yeah, this is called key drawings. Key drawings, which is this one and this one. So let's just call them 1 and 2, right? And you know, key drawings is interchangeable with key poses, keys, you know, extremes. Not really with extremes, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, now we got this layout, because, you know, you're laying out the elements on the screen. I don't know why I just gestured with my hands. You cannot see my hands. So now we got this layout page. I'm just gonna lower the opacity. Oh, and one more thing. This is kind of spacing because, you know, we're kind of spacing the distance between the two key positions, right? But it's not really spacing just yet. Like in a technical sense, like if you looked up the dictionary, what does spacing mean? It probably can apply to here, but we don't really call it spacing in this stage. We call it layout, composition, storyboarding. Basically, in here it's not spacing, but it's more or less what you want to see on the screen. So I'm gonna make myself a note here to circle back to that later. So first, spacing, well, keys aren't spacing, or isn't would be the correct grammar. So isn't, and then yeah, let's keep circling back to that whenever I have a notes, and I can expand on that later. So now we got this layout page, and we got our two keys, right? In this example, it's simple enough. It's just a ball moving up and down. So now we go to this animation folder, right? And first comes the timing. So now we know this ball in the air is called the drawing number 1. So let's draw that again. And this ball on the ground is drawing number 2. So let's create a drawing number 2 right next to drawing number 1. So here we get the timeline, right? I'm gonna reduce everything to just 1 second to make it easy for everybody to see. Wait. Hold on. Gonna drag this blue way back here just to be 1 second. I'm also gonna drag the timeline up so that it's easier to see. So now we see this is a timeline, right? So in 1 second, to industry standards, there's 24 frames, which means after 20, technically you can squeeze at most 24 drawings into this 1 second. It doesn't mean you need to do that, but if you try to squeeze as many drawings as you can into 1 second, it will only be able to fit in 24 drawings. So, and it also means that this 24 frames, you can treat the frames as just like another time unit. So 1 frame would be equal to a 24th of a second, right? So 1 frame. Since, you know, like 1 second equals 24 frames, that's how I do my frames. By the way, I put a lowercase x. That means, what? One frame equals 1/24 of a second, right? So yeah, that's the math. So you can treat a frame as a time unit, but maybe that's going in too deep into it. The important thing is I'm also gonna put on onion skin so that it's a little more how you say, what's that word, familiar to newer animators. Okay, so now we got our 2 drawings, right? Let's label them also. So this is drawing 1, this is drawing 2. So now as you can see, drawing 1 is only showing for 1 frame, and drawing 2 is showing for 23 frames, right? So when we try to play that, it will look like this, right? Very jarring, right? Let's turn off the layout too, right? It's very jarring. It's almost like a jump scare, right? It's almost like an Easter egg that you don't want anybody to see, right? So that's timing. That is the timing part. So in the timing of this animation currently, drawing number 1 is showing for 1 frame, while drawing number 2 is showing for 23 frames, right? So if I wanted to make this animation less jarring, maybe I say I would like the first drawing to show to be showing for a longer length of time. So maybe I say, okay, maybe 1 frame is too little. What about 10 frames, right? So now I move. So I want the first drawing to show for 10 frames. That means the second drawing is gonna show up at the 11th frame, right? So I'm gonna drag that over here. So now we can see the drawing 1 is showing for 10 frames, and then drawing 2 is showing for, I don't know the math, 14? Yeah, 14. So let's do that. Right? So now we can check the animation again. It's not quite there yet, right? Because it kind of feels like this, because it's showing for 10 frames, it's not really looping consistently. Not looping consistently, but it doesn't feel like you know, it's like a perpetual loop, right? It kind of feels unbalanced, which can be played into characteristics of the ball again, but for the sake of the exercise, let's just say, okay, it's not balanced yet, so we're gonna do drawing number 1 for 12 frames, and then drawing number 2 for 12 frames, and now we can check again. So now it's showing for 12 frames, and this boy is also showing for 12 frames. Let's check the animation. Boop, 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 right? So now it's even. It's equal in timing, right? So all of that was just timing, right? That's the timing step. So you got your key drawings at the start, right? Because at the start, we just had them laying to next to each other like this. The timing was blasphemous, right? It looked like this. So then we went to say, okay, I don't like the speed of that movement, so I'm gonna change how long each drawing is gonna show. So how long, right? Long as in time, that is called timing. So that's the first step of timing, right? Now we go to spacing. So spacing, there are 2 major branches of spacing. So that sounds way more complicated than it should be. So let's just add one more layer here. So I'm gonna name this title. I'm gonna name this notes, and I'm gonna name this spacing. So spacing basically means how the in-betweens are spaced, or like, yeah, how the in-betweens are spaced. I call it that. Again, so let's come in here and spacing. How the in-betweens are spaced. This is a very easy way to look at it. To you know, like for you to instantly kind of that is what spacing means. So let's come back to our layout page here. I'm gonna blue this for a sec, or like just turn it off completely. So we know like it's gonna take 12 seconds. This first drawing gonna show 12 seconds, and then this second drawing is gonna show for not seconds, 12 frames, and this one is gonna show for 12 frames, right? Let's go back to our animation. So that is the situation, right? So 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. But a drawing which is an animation which is 2 drawings, you know, it doesn't really feel like an animation just yet, right? It just feels like 2 pictures on a slideshow, just constantly going back and forth, like 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's why we need in-betweens to tell the story of how drawing 1 goes to drawing 2, and that's where spacing comes in. So basically we all understand that drawing 1 gonna move down to drawing 2, and drawing 2 gonna move back up to drawing 1, right? It's like that. Or so this is like the Western direction thinking style, Western style of direction thinking. In the anime industry, we usually indicate the direction on the second drawing, but okay, let's just go to that later. So let's think about positions. Let's stay on spacing for now and think about positions, right? So the position of the 1 ball, I will mark it with a center crosshair, so it is there, and the 2 ball would be here. So if I turn off the onion skin and just notice on these 2 dots, right? For ball number 1 to move to ball number 2, it means the dot inside of ball number 1 is also moving to dot number 2. It's like a representation, right? So then we can think about, okay, so if ball number 1 here needs to move straight to ball number 2 like that, how many in-betweens can I squeeze in here, right? And for the sake of this exercise being simple, again, let's say, excuse me, took a sip of coffee there. Let's say the drawings in this exercise gonna be animated on 2s, which means every single drawing will be shown on 2s instead of on 3s or 4s or 1s or 6s. Let's see if that kind of works for us though. So what, 3, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that works. So now we take a look at these, at each of these drawings, right? So the time that we have established in the timing phase, for number 1 to go to number 2 is 12 frames, and for 2 to go back to 1 is also 12 frames. So we take that and we divide it by 2 because every drawing is going to be shown on 2s. We get 6, right? We get 6. But we gotta remember, these 12 frames is a cycle that goes from 1 to right before 2, right? Because as you can see, frame number 1 here is already showing drawing 1, and then it doesn't become drawing number 2 until it completes the whole 12 frames. So what I'm trying to say with this is that we get 6 drawings in 12 frames, but drawing number 1 is already there. So drawing number 1 is already 1 drawing, which means it's gonna take 6 minus 1 equals 5. 5 more drawings before it goes to drawing number 2. Okay? That's also part of timing, to know how many in-betweens it's gonna take. Because timing, timing decides for us like how many frames each drawing gonna show. So then we can use that information to decide how many in-betweens it's gonna show, moving between the keys. So now we know we're gonna take 5 in-betweens for 1 to move to 2, right? I'm gonna get rid of all that because holy crap, it's looking a lot messy right now. So now we know it's gonna take 5 more drawings to go from 1 to 2. So that's like 1, A, B, C, D, E, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 2. And it's gonna take from 2 to go like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, right? So it's gonna take 5 drawings to go back up because they both are 12 frames showing for each of these keys. So how do we draw these in-betweens, right? When we don't know anything about animation, we would just keep the onion skin on and go straight ahead. So as long as the in-betweens are in between the 2 keys, we might feel like it's good enough. So let's see if that works. First, let's try that. So now I create a new drawing between 1 and 2, and it's right next to 1, 2 because I gave 1 2 frames, which is correct. So I'm gonna go in and do like, okay, so it needs to move away from 1, so I'm gonna do this, and then give it 2 frames, and then create a new drawing, and do that, and do that again, until I get 5 in-betweens. So probably like over here, as long as it's like in between 2 and 1, right? So last one here is gonna do that. Okay, that's good enough, I'd say. Okay. And then probably I'm gonna put a number 1 over here, and then close the loop because how CSV work. And then now I need to go back to number 1, right? From 2 to 1, 2 to 1. So with onion skin on again, I do the same thing. I give number 2 here 2 frames to show, and I keep in-betweening like that until I get 5 in-betweens between 2 and 1 to give it that movement back up. Oops, need to go more, but there we go. Okay, so now we got everything, right? Let's see how it plays. Okay, so it's definitely moving, right? It's not inherently wrong, but we have to ask ourselves, like, what was the goal of this animation, right? In-betweening like this, like what we have right here, again, it looks like an animation, but is this the movement that we were aiming for? That's a very important question to ask ourselves every time we do an animation. So for me, this is not it, gang. This is bad because I wanted, let's turn this off. I wanted a ball to be bouncing up and down, right? So, without the in-betweens, let's just see that. Without the in-betweens, I'm gonna delete and then delete. It just looks like two drawings flipping back and forth. Like boop, bap, boop, bap, boop, bap. But with the in-betweens, it does not look like a bouncing ball, right? It kind of looks like it's bouncing the other way. Like if I did this, this kind of looked like it's bouncing over here instead, right? So for some reason, my in-betweens did not give me the movement of this ball bouncing on the ground. It kind of looks like it's being magnetically pulled towards the ceiling and it's bouncing off the ceiling, which is not what I wanted at the start. I wanted a ball to be bouncing up and down. So that didn't happen before the in-betweens come here. So the in-betweens are the problem. Now, how do we fix that? It comes to spacing because, repeat it with me. Wait, I need to see it too. Sorry. Spacing is how the in-betweens are spaced. So we really need to space the in-betweens so that it works for our goal, right? And how we do that, we come to Brad, come back here. We come to the two major ways of spacing. So first, method A is called even spacing. Again, like for people who kind of already know this, I would still recommend you like checking out what I have to say for it. Maybe, it will like add to your understanding, and if not, it's still like a good review session. So first, it's called even spacing. If we have point A that needs to move to point B, so that's the distance. And let's say in this example, we wanted to have 5 in-betweens, just like in the bouncing ball that we were doing just now. Well, we're still doing it. This means I have to squeeze 5 drawings in this distance so that every time a drawing shows up, it moves an equal distance, right? So let's kind of use marks like in geometry class, right? But how do we do that? How do we have, and by the way, here is just 4 drawings. I kind of did 5 distances instead of 6. So that's another thing to pay attention to. 5 in-betweens means 6 distances. 4 in-between means 5, and yada yada, just plus 1, right? So there's like each of a strike like that on the distance would mean there's a drawing there. So we need to squeeze our 5 drawings so that each of these distances is equal to each other. And right now, these 6 distances, right, like this group, are not equal. So how do we do that? Well, it's very easy. For even spacing, you just take everything and divide it into halves again and again and again and again, right? So we have 5 drawings to fill in. So first, let's divide the whole distance in half. We got this. That looks pretty equal. Well, a little bit over here. Well, a little bit over here. Nope, a little bit over here. Nope, a little bit over here. Yeah. So now we got 1 in between in there, and whoa, that's probably not good. That's not a good shape. We got 1 in between in there, and now we have 2 equal distances from A to this and from this to B, right? But we need 5 in-betweens and we need 6 equal distances. So we just take each of these and divide it in half again. So we got that and we got that. Well, I just realized 5 in-betweens doesn't really work over here. I just heard something and that was very scary. Hopefully there's nothing wrong. Let's just say 3 in-betweens for now. How about that? So now we got 3 in-betweens in here. And we got 4 equals distances, right? Let me just do that again. So what if we wanted to go even further and take each of these and divide them by half again? We would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which means we'll probably have 7 in-betweens. And then with a 8 equal distances. Wait, I just want to see if I can squeeze 5 in-betweens equally somehow. So let's do that and pull it to this side and pull it to this side. That's not how it works. Yeah, I don't think that works for 5. So let's say if I wanted to go once more, that would be like this. And that would be how many in-betweens? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so it works like 2x plus 1. So we went from 3 to 7 to 15, which means you go to 7, you got 3 by 2 plus 1, and over here you got 7 by 2 plus 1, right? So this is the even spacing math. So there's like a very constant string of number for even spacing. So you got 3, 31, 63, and etc. So that's called even spacing, right? So let's try even spacing on our balls. That sounded very wrong. I'm gonna space my balls evenly now. So as we just discovered, right? Even spacing only work if a drawing is showing for 4 equal distances, or 8 for 8. So this is like drawings and this is like distances, right? So let's see. So let's take these numbers and multiply them by 2. Again, sorry, this is kind of being jarring and disjointed, but still. So first, let's say these gonna have what? 3 in-betweens? Yeah, for the equal. So that's gonna be 8, that's 3 in-betweens plus the drawing, the key drawing that makes it 4. Multiplied by 2 makes it 8. So this whole cycle is actually just gonna be 16 frame instead of 24. So let's check that out. Okay, it's still flipping back and forth equally. Now let's try to squeeze in some in-betweens in there. So similarly to how we divide a section into into equal parts, we need to work from the center out, right? We need to go over here, like the center of the biggest, and then goes to the center of the 2 smaller chunks, and then we get 4 equal parts. Like if we try to find this one first, we can't really do it, right? Like what, over here? No, that doesn't look right. So we always need to go from the center out, right? So we need to go to the center of the time as well as the center of the space. Timing and spacing. Right? So here we got 8 frames, which means the divided by 2 would be 4. So the first section is 4 frames, and then the next section would also be 4 frames. And then the first section has the first drawing on number 1, which means the next section needs to have the first drawing on number 5. So we start there, from the center out. We create our first center drawing between 1 and 2. And then we also do the halfway between point 1 and 2. Right? So it's gonna look something like this. So now with that, it looks like this, right? Very equal spacing. And then we do the same thing again with this type of, with the distance, where we take everything and divide it by half again, both timing and spacing. We will do this. So this section is 4 divided by 2. Gives us 3 right here, because 1, 2, and then 3 and 4, right? So we do half of each of these again, right? Gives us that. And then over here as well. So we will have very equal distance travel, right? And I'm just gonna reuse the drawings on this side because it's even anyway, so no reason to draw them a second time. So let's see the animation now. It's kind of bouncing, right? But it's still not believable just yet because it's moving very equally. So yeah, I want to make it feel a little more bouncy, right? Because it's a ball. So let's see if we can do that. In order to do that, we need to go to the second type of in-betweening, which is the uneven in-between. So uneven basically means you can just do whatever as long as it's not really even spacing. So let's demonstrate with this same exact example again. Put it down here, give it a different name. I'm also going to shrink this part because it's way too big and it's distracting. So now I'm going to call this B. And it's gonna be uneven. So the thing about equal distance spaces like this, not gonna happen again. Sorry, I'm gonna take another sip of coffee. Now, of course, like I said, as long as it's uneven, so let's just go in there and do something like that, right? It works as an uneven spacing, but usually there's kind of a technique to it to make everything easier for us to kind of learn. And once you get it, you can, explore your own style of spacing later on. So the classic style of uneven spacing is favoring one side or like one key. So let's just say I wanted to favor the A key instead of the B key, because on even spacing, right, we're not favoring any keys. They're both equally in distance. But now let's say we're gonna favor A key. The most popular method to do it is we would just also divide everything in half, but we divide only to the direction of key A instead of to both, like we did up here. So first, divide everything by half, right? Yeah. And then divide the next step, we divide by half again, but we only go to the A side, so we're only gonna do this part and not this part. So that we got half again, and then again on this one, so we got half again. So we have successfully get 3 in-betweens, all leaning to side A, right? From this in-between drawing to side B, there's nothing at all, right? And if we flip the whole thing, like if we did everything but we favored side B instead, it would just look like the same thing but to the other side. So this is called uneven spacing because look at these spaces, like they are even in pairs but they're not even to each other. So this is equal to this, but this is not equal to this, right? And then so on and so forth. So that's a pair, that's this next pair, and this is the last pair. Oh, now I'm really parched today. I'm gonna need some more water. And usually in animation, very rarely do we ever use even spacing. It's like it's extremely rare because it doesn't feel alive. It doesn't feel organic. It feels very mechanical and robotic. So usually we do some type of uneven spacing, and favoring one side, dividing by half is by far the most popular way of doing it. So now let's take these exact concepts and apply it to our balls over here. So now I'm gonna do everything favoring to the drawing 1. So we know the distance is like this, right? And then we divide everything by half, but going to the number 1 side. So we do it once, we do it twice, we do it thrice. So we got equal parts like that. And now we know there's only space for 3 in between to show between these 2 drawings, which is why, you know, like these 2 ends are 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and then there's only 3 drawings that are on this this orbit, not orbit, what track? So yeah, we know that this drawing is gonna show up first right after 1, and this one right after the previous one, and this one right before 2. So so that's the order of the drawings that's gonna show. But then going back to how we found the position of these in-betweens, let's do that once more. You would notice that we had to start from drawing number 3, in between number 3, to find the midway between 1 and 2, right? And then we needed to find drawing in between number 2, and finally we need to find in between number 1, right? Or let's call them A, B, and C. So we needed to draw C first, and then we needed to find B next, and then A last, right? So that's exactly how we're gonna do it. So we know from C to 2, that's the last drawing right before 2. So if we go from 2 and then we go back 1 drawing, which is equal to 2 frames, we would get frame number 7. So we create our first drawing there, perfectly in between 1 and 2, like as in the middle, perfectly in the middle. And then this is drawing C, right? And then we needed to go backwards 1 more drawing. That's halfway between 1, right? B is between 1 and C, 1/2. So we go back 2 frames, put a new drawing there, and find B perfectly in the middle between 1 and C. Call that B. And lastly, do the same thing with A, again perfectly centered. call that A. So now we have uneven spacing between 1 and 2, right? It's kind of going a bit to this side. I have a tendency to lean towards the right. I can. So yeah, let's reuse those drawings, and we would have an animation like that. Now that looks like that's bouncing, right? And is spacing. This is what spacing is, right? And now I say, okay, but the timing is off because we started with each of the keys showing for 12, right? But now each of the keys are only showing for 8, so it feels off to me. So let's do everything again once more, just to demonstrate it to you guys. So now we're gonna apply that uneven spacing method, but over a course of 12 frames per key. So like we said earlier, 12 frames means 5 in-betweens, right? So this is 1, this is 2, and we have the space to squeeze in 5 drawings in here. So let's do uneven spacing again. Going from the center out, got 1, half again, we got 2, half again, we got 3, half again, we got 4, half again, we got 5. So we know we need to go from right before number 2 backwards to number 1, right? So let's do that. So, excuse me. Yep, my pen is freaking out. Okay, so we're at number 2. We're gonna go back 1 drawing, being 2 frames, find our first midpoint, which is around there, I think. Well, around there, yep. So we call that in between number 5. So let's do I5, why not? And go back, find the next center, in between 4, go back, in between 3, go back, in between 2, I don't know why I went British there, sorry. And last but not least, we got in between 1. So now we have like that. And if we reused the drawings, we will have, oh my god, that's a lot. 4, 6, 7, and if we played the animation, right now we got an even more dramatic bouncing ball, right? And that is how we do timing and spacing. So to recap, let's get rid of all these in-betweens again. First, timing is when we time out the keys. This is called timing. When we decide, okay, ball number 1 is gonna take 12 frames, ball number 2 is also gonna take 12 frames, everything gonna loop in this 1 second. This is called timing. And only when we come in there and decide this is how the spacing's gonna work, like how the in-between's gonna be laid out, that, and then we put in the in-betweens according to the spacing plan. That is called spacing. So that is why keys isn't spacing. Well, not really. I'll come right back to that. So that is timing and spacing. So let's tackle time charts, right? This is almost a time chart. And time charts usually just means you are telling everyone how the key drawings are gonna move. So again, let's go back to when it's just the keys. Wait. Right. So if it's just the keys, it's just gonna look like this, right? If it's just the keys. But since we have this to tell us how the in-betweens are gonna show up, we have a better idea of how number 1 is going to become number 2, and then 2 back to 1. Right? So that's basically what a time chart is. It tells us how this key drawing becomes the next key drawing, and then how this next key drawing becomes the next key drawing, right? That's what a time chart is. And then again, this time chart is how Westerns do it. So we always go from top to bottom, right? So the 1 shows up first, so that's why the 1 is at the top. And then it takes 5 in-betweens, which is laid out unevenly by doing a favoring division like that. So that's the time chart on drawing number 1. But then on drawing number 2, it would instead look like this, with the 2 at the top, 1 at the bottom, because 2 is showing up first and it's going to drawing number 2. So that's why everything's gonna flip, which is like this. It's gonna look like this, the chart on drawing number 2. Because the next drawing from drawing number 2 is gonna travel half the distance to drawing number 1, which is what happens, right? It's already up here instead of, like being somewhere down here. So following with that same logic, it just becomes more and more closer to drawing number 1 with each of these in-betweens, right? So that's how the Westerns do time charts. For anime, the time charts actually show up on the landing key. So if I copied the same one, I make a different copy, and I get rid of the time charts, and I were to chart the animation again, I will know again. This is the first information is that 1 goes to 2, and then 2 goes to 1, right? That's the first information. The next information is that in-betweens, 5 in-betweens, and they all favor drawing number 1 because, the second section is reused. So for an anime, we chart on the landing key. So we go from key 1 down to key 2 down here, right? But we will place that chart on key number 2 instead of drawing number 1. So on drawing number 2 here, we're gonna chart it as 1 going to 2, and then do the spacing again. Let's use a straight arrow to avoid confusion. Similar way how we charted the other method with halfway and then half and then half and half until we have 5 in between marks, and then we also do the curves to show that they are equal, and then also we do a small mark to show that there's an in-betweener. So there's 5 marks indicating there are 5 in-betweens. And it shows how 1 moves to 2, right? But it is on drawing number 2. Whereas on the western side, to show how 1 moves to 2, it is shown on drawing number 1. Okay, so that's the first difference. And then similarly, and vice versa, on Japanese or anime, to show how 2 moves to 1, it will be shown on drawing number 1. So let's do this whole thing, flipped it vertically, and then do 1, 2, like that. So on drawing number 1, the time chart shows how drawing number 2 moves to drawing number 1. And on drawing number 2, the time chart shows how drawing number 1 moves to drawing number 2. That's why there's an arrow. The arrow indicates like which drawing is going to which drawing, right? So this arrow points to drawing number 2, means this is the chart for the movement from drawing number 1 going to drawing number 2. And this arrow points to drawing number 1, it means this chart shows the movement of how drawing number 2 goes to drawing number 1. And that's time charts. Yeah, that's it. That's everything. One last thing that some people like to do is like numbering the in-betweens, like naming them with the frames that they're gonna be shown on. So like, let's go back to the Western once more. We can see that these in-betweens are gonna show on 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, yada yada. So we're gonna go in there and we're gonna mark them like that. Right? Because 1 going to 2 is like that, and then 2 going back to 1 is like 15. No. Just 15, 17, 19, 21, 23. And then 1 is back to 1 or 25 if it went on longer. So that's how you number. Some people do this, it's not really necessary. And similarly over here, you know, same thing with the 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, and on second drawing it's like 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, like that. Right? If you wanted to, you could do that. I don't really do it. It's a case by case. It's a case by case specificity. So let's demonstrate that in like a more animated example, right? So we got, let's say not a bouncing ball, but let's say a punch. This is how I'm really gonna show you why I say keys is not a step of spacing. So first, let's look up a punching reference. Punching reference. Okay, let's take a look at this. I love this channel, by the way. Whoa! Okay, that's a pretty nice punch. Okay, so I'm gonna take this key drawing. That's key number 2, but I'm just gonna draw that first because you can rearrange your drawings later. So it's like this. And her face is going this way and her body is twisting this way. It's kind of doing this also. I don't know who punches like that. That is so little force, but demonstrating purposes again. Let's not focus on the details. So there's our punch. Right, that's the second drawing. Let's go back to see the starting position. Which is kind of there. This is more the breakdown, but I'm not gonna touch breakdowns until, you know, like I do like a proper course and lesson. So I'm gonna do that. Again, not paying attention to the timing. I'm just gonna draw first. So it's kind of this. And then it's going like bam, 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 right? Let's actually put this like that. So we got a punch. Again, let's time that with exactly how we timed the ball. And let's actually rename this drawing 1 and this drawing 2. So let's see how that loops. Boom, 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 boom. So I don't really like the timing of that, but still, again, keys, like how the animation turns out, it kind of depends more on the spacing. Not really, it also depends on the timing. I don't know. But again, for example purposes, let's just go with this, right? So if we went to do even spacing, so we start from the center of the animation out. Again, it's not 12 frames. We can't really do even spacing in 12 frames. So let's go to 8 first, just to demonstrate. So this is 16, and we're gonna go to 5, turn on onion skin. So we're gonna perfectly in between everything, like this, go to this, means like that, and then this straighten out, so it means like what? It goes to here, so it means this. And then we just go evenly from there. You know, just in betweening extremely equally between the drawings. So we will have an equal spacing, even spacing, and then reduce the drawing just like how we did with the bouncing ball. See how that turns out, right? It's definitely a punching movement, but you can see, right? It's very There isn't weight, there isn't speed, there isn't power. The punch does not look it does not look like a punch. It's kind of like playfully tapping, right? So that's why we gotta do uneven spacing. So to generate more punch, to generate more force, I feel like we should also do the same thing and favor the first drawing. So let's actually move this up here, actually, yeah. So she's kind of punching up. So do the same thing, work backwards, right? So we know 1 needs to move to 2. And let's divide everything by half, going back to 1. Like this. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's just work backwards. And again, I'm not even talking about arcs now. Like, I don't want to talk about it until way later, so let's just in between very simply in the middle, right, of everything. Like that. Go backwards. Again. Just keep going backwards and then put it in the perfect center of put the in between perfectly in the center of every drawing. And this last one, and now we can just reuse everything again. Okay, let's check the animation. Whew, whew, whew. So definitely no one punches like this in real life with the flowy eases over here, but again, the punch is very quick now. So that's why keys isn't spacing, right? Because spacing makes this happen, right? Uneven or even spacing doesn't change the fact that draw key 1 shows up at frame 1 and key 2 shows up at frame 13. The spacing changes the story in between the two keys, right? So yeah, that's that. I feel kind of bad for anyone who actually sits through my whole stream over here. But you know, I feel like going like this really does, you know, kind of give us like a better understanding of what timing does, what spacing does, what time charts are. And it's a very important basic to animation. So yeah, I guess take that. I'm gonna stop streaming now. I'm gonna go take like a huge shit because we ate crazy food last night, and I'm gonna hop on studio work. Yeah, so good luck with everything. Again, rewatch the stream many times if you need to. Let me just... yeah, let's just do that. And kind of do... yeah, I think that's good enough. Yeah, so see y'all. Goodbye.